For 11 months of the year, Kiki happily does a Disney podcast with her good friend Tuesday. But for 1 month...
Ho, 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 no.
It's a holiday extravaganza! It's almost Christmas, Kiki!
Soon this will be over.
Yeah, we do have a little bit of a somber note to start the show off, and something that's happened, pretty much breaking news as we are recording this, the news of the passing of Jeremy Bulloch, the original Boba Fett in Star Wars. We just lost David Prowse, and we've now lost Jeremy Bulloch too.
Well, when David Prowse passed, I said that, we know that the original slate of actors, the ones that are still with us, we know that we have fewer days ahead than behind. So this kind of unfortunately proved it in a very visceral way.
Yeah.
Jeremy Bulloch was perhaps the kindest man you would have ever met. I never saw a person who was so perfectly, genuinely kind to every fan.
The same. I've met him once many years ago at a convention. Very, very kind, especially with all the fans. Especially, my favorite memory of him was one of his Q&A sessions where they did a Boba Fett off of various fans. Who could do the 4 lines that the original Boba Fett was known for, who could deliver them the best, and the fact that he just stand there and watched all of these people say those 4 lines over and over again, that he's probably been he's heard hundreds and thousands of times at that point, and he just was okay with all of that.
I actually met him. I'm going to tell a tiny little quick story just to prove this point. For those who never had the pleasure. I was a day early for a convention, and so was he. And there was almost nobody there, guests or fans. So he was just sitting at the hotel bar having a drink. And someone that I knew at the time who was a bit, very much a comic book guy from The Simpsons, He grabbed a video camera and kind of shoved it in Jeremy's face without any warning and was like, Boba Fett, tell us what you really feel about Han Solo. Tell us what it's like to work with Darth Vader. What do you think of Jabba the Hutt? Just shouting questions at, not even asked. Like, he didn't even walk up and be like, hello, Mr. Bulloch, may I get you on camera? Like, just completely paparazzi bum rushed the guy.
Ugh.
And I had the good sense to see what was about to go down, and I couldn't stop him. I tried to stop him. I was like, dude, he's just getting a drink. Like, don't harass him now. But guy charged in without me, so I kind of just hung back like, I'm not with him. I kind of pretended not to know the guy. And afterwards, after the guy had run away and all that kind of stuff, I just kind of walked up and I said, Mr. Bulloch, I don't really want to take up any of your time, but I kind of just had one question I wanted to ask. After a couple of decades, how sick are you of that? Like, because it was probably the most cringy fan interaction I had ever witnessed to that point.
Ugh.
And without missing a beat, he said, you know what? I am so lucky that people are so passionate. He's like, I had 4 lines in a movie decades ago where you don't even see my face, and people are thrilled to see me. Why wouldn't I love that?
Yeah, you'd be surprised. Yeah.
And especially
with the popularity that the character has, even now with the Mandalorian bringing the character back.
Yeah, but just his reaction, and it was so genuine. I never saw him ever do or say a single thing, even just privately, like when he was just among friends. I never saw him say anything that ever contradicted that first statement to me. And the interesting thing is I had kind of asked him my question. He gave an answer, and I said, you know what? That's wonderful. That's such a beautiful way to look at it. Thank you. I'll leave you alone now. And he said, hey, there's nobody around, and I'm kind of bored. You want to sit down and join me? And I did, and we spent hours the rest of that night talking. Just him and me, and he was a very kind and wonderful man who really, really, really loved Star Wars and Star Wars fans. So great loss, and I do pity you to the bottom of my soul if you never got to interact with him in person, because it was a kind of a singular experience. He was the most kind and generous man, and I am quite broken up about it.
Yeah. Gone but not forgotten, and it's like I said, life is finite, and yeah, and cherish the time we've got, especially now in 2020.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's kind of move on from that to another news story we do want to talk about. Right after we recorded last week's episode, Disney had their Investor Day, where they announced all the things.
All of the things.
We do not have time to talk about all the things. It would take up a 3-hour podcast, where our podcast is as long as it is. So what we're gonna do sort of an individual top 5. I've asked Kiki to pick 5 things. I picked 5 things. If we have a match, we'll just go. We'll just, back and forth as quickly as we can. And if we have a match, we just talk about it. So Kiki, what is one of the 5 things that you want that interest you from the Investor Day?
Well, it's not a new thing, but I am on pins and needles for this Loki series. And what we did get was a final trailer, like a good, meaty trailer. And it's got a lot of good clips in it. But I have been waiting for this Loki series since they announced it. And I'm glad that it looks like they're going to be doing the Loki for President storyline at some point in there. There's a couple of things in the trailer that make you go like, I wonder if they're bringing this or that in there. I won't kind of spoil it for anybody who is not like super deep into the comic lore, but there's some interesting stuff in there, and I cannot wait to see it. And Tom Hiddleston looks amazing, which is 90% of
coming in May. Loki to Disney Plus.
Yeah.
My number 5, Raya and the Last Dragon. That not only coming to theaters on March 5th, but Disney Plus as well. They're going to give it the Mulan treatment, where you have to pay a premium to see it. But considering that American cinemas might not be open, at least open in full by March, that's the best option they have. Yes, they're stealing HBO Max's thing by releasing movies in cinema and on their platform at the same time. But I don't really see another way that you're going to get these movies out and get the money back that you put into it.
Sounds good to me.
All right. What is your number 4?
Staying with Marvel still, because I really am pleased with the Marvel slate that they put out. I want to see the What If series. I was a big fan of the What If comics. So once again, not a new thing that they just announced. We've known that they were planning that series for a while, but we sadly didn't really get a trailer for that either. But I am stoked about it, because What If was always one of the more interesting Marvel comic lines to me.
And another important thing, it is the final performance of Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa.
Yeah, that will be bittersweet.
Yeah. My number 4, Pixar's Lightyear. We're getting an origin story for Buzz Lightyear. Apparently, this is the character that the toy is based off of in the universe of Toy Story. So this is the gritty reboot to the cartoon that Andy watched as a kid, with Chris Evans now voicing Buzz Lightyear. This has kind of gotten some controversy in the Toy Story fandom because of Tim Allen has always been the voice of Buzz Lightyear. Since this is supposed to be the quote reboot, I'm okay with it. And yeah, if they're gonna go in this direction, it'd be more of a sci-fi Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon type of movie. Sure, I think Chris Evans can do a better job at it. I'm looking forward to it. 2022, 2023, whenever that comes out, I'm gonna go see it.
Also, Chris Evans is still wholesome, and we are finding out things about Tim Allen that are less than wholesome, in my opinion. So.
Yeah. I didn't want to say it, but yeah.
I'll say it. I'm kind of done with that.
What's your number 3?
I think the Willow TV series. We had talked about it when we talked about Willow the film. We had talked about that it was a rumor, but they've kind of said it now. Like we do have this planned. Warwick Davis is on board. Very, very glad to hear that. So I will be interested to see it because I think we both agreed that there is a good story and a good world somewhere in Willow that just didn't come across so much in the final edit of the film.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested to see what they're going to do with that.
I'm hoping that Willow is now a full wizard and is like the personal advisor to the queen.
That would be cool. I mean, I'll wait and see what they're gonna do with it, but I'm hoping for good things.
Yeah, filming starts, I believe they said in March or April, and yeah, go for it. So moving on to my number 3, Star Wars Rogue Squadron, directed by Patty Jenkins, the Wonder Woman director. The whole trailer of her talking about her dad used to be in the Air Force as a pilot. If this movie is Top Gun in space, I am all for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really a fan of Top Gun, but you add in space to anything, and I'm kind of there for it. I mean, Mandalorian is a Western, one of my most hated genres, but you add in space, I show up for that.
Yeah. Yeah, that and a buttload of Star Wars shows coming in the next few years. One that if we talk about it, it's technically spoilers.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that one. And yeah, if you know, you know, but we're not going to spoil it. It's still too soon for us to release spoiler ban.
Yeah. Okay, what's your number 2?
My number 2, I think, is probably I don't know. It's kind of a tie.
Okay, go ahead.
I am interested in both Disenchanted, which is supposed to be a sequel to Enchanted.
Mm-hmm.
And also the idea of a Chippendales Rescue Rangers hybrid live-action film.
It looks like that's going to be a little bit of Roger Rabbit, as it's going to be old cartoon characters trying to find their place in the modern world. I'm curious
but
about
they've got John Mulaney attached to it, which is like, yes, please. Put John Mulaney in anything. Once again, I will show up. And if you put John Mulaney in space, then you've got me. Come on.
My only thing about the reason I didn't put Disenchanted on my list, and it was almost on my list, only Amy Adams seems to be coming back. None of the other actors are, which makes me wonder, maybe Giselle's Happily Ever After didn't turn out so happily ever after.
I'm really hoping and crossing my fingers that Idina Menzel might come back.
No Patrick Dempsey, though. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't care about him.
Idina Menzel, the irony is that at the end of the movie, Idina Menzel went on to become a Disney princess, and then she played a Disney princess.
Yeah, but I would love to at least get a glimpse of what she's up to.
Yeah.
Even if she's not in the entire movie, I want to know what happened to that character.
All right.
Yeah, so.
My number 2, the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special.
Yeah, you can see why that's not my number 2, but I'm tentatively interested.
James Gunn is directing. The entire cast is coming back. They are going to be filming this simultaneously as they're filming Guardians 3. Apparently, James Gunn said it's going to be heavily inspired by the original Star Wars Holiday Special, which we reviewed a few weeks ago. I can't wait to see Groot's wife, Groot's son, and his father that likes adult material. Oh, I mean, the absurdity of a Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special with James Gunn's writing I'm on board. I'm on board. All right, so what's your number 1?
I am going to cheat a little because it is also my show. And I'm going to say the entire Star Wars slate.
Everything?
Yeah, that I don't, even the stuff that I have no idea what it is, I am so psyched for.
More Star Wars.
Yeah,
Taika
but
Waititi's
also
doing a movie, you know?
Also more Star Wars that's not the Skywalker saga, it seems.
Yeah, we seem to be stepping away from that.
Which is what we have both said we wanted. We talked about this when we talked about Star Wars, that we want the series to get kind of as far away from that as possible.
Yeah, even apparently they're also working with a couple, some of the new shows, what is it, Rangers of the New Republic and Ahsoka will apparently be side stories to The Mandalorian, and there's going to be this big crossover, kind of like the Netflix shows with the Defenders, the Netflix Marvel shows.
Yeah.
Which is very interesting. That they are taking the Mandalorian characters and kind of giving them their own shows and whatnot.
Yeah, you've got the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, the Lando show.
I'm very interested in Lando.
Yeah,
Donald Glover deserves another chance to play Lando.
Yeah, if that's Donald Glover, then yeah, I want more of that, please. I liked Rosario Dawson's Ahsoka in the tiny little bit we got, so I'm tentative for that. Even some of the stuff that I don't particularly know what it's gonna be, like The Acolyte, Bad Batch, Visions, Children of Blood and Bone, like I don't really know about those things.
Children of Blood and Bone is not a Star Wars series. It is going to be based off a young adult novel. It's something that Lucasfilm wants to do, and it's not based on.
But it's got Taika Waititi attached to direct it and write it, so like, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, again, Taika Waititi, another person I will show up for no matter what. So yes, please.
All right.
So yeah, just everything Star Wars.
My number 1, well, I'm going to be cheating too, and it's not just one Marvel thing, but it's 2. The first one being Fantastic Four, directed by John Watts, the same director of the most recent Spider-Man movies. And the fact that if he's going to give the Fantastic Four a chance, I'm confident that Marvel Studios will do right by their first family, and we're not going to get another Fan 4 stick.
I am less optimistic about that just because I know the history of Fantastic Four and film.
Who knows? If King the Conqueror is going to be the big bad of these movies, who knows? Speaking of, what you gonna do when Quantum Mania runs wild on you? I'm sorry, that's the first thing that came to my mind. Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantum Mania, with King the Conqueror as the villain. I like the Ant-Man movies. Paul Rudd is amazing as the character, and I'm looking forward to more of that. Not too hot on them recasting Cassie Lang for the 3rd time, but maybe this means that the character will become a hero like she is in the comics. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? And that's all the stuff that we liked from the Investor Day. If there's something that you like that we didn't get around to, let us know on our various social media sites, and we'll get around to it.
Well, there's more stuff that I liked. I mean, I liked a lot of it. There's some stuff that I look at and I'm like, they got a new Peter Pan thing coming out, and I'm like, no, just no. We've talked about that before.
Pinocchio with Tom Hanks, and we're getting
Pinocchio with Tom Hanks I might be okay with. It depends on You know,
we're getting a Moana and Tiana TV series.
they're rebooting 3 Men and a Baby and Cheaper by the Dozen. No.
We're getting Sister Act 3.
I might be okay with that.
Yeah. Hey, Whoopi Goldberg's got finally confirmation of Hocus Pocus 2. We're getting Hocus Pocus 2, and we're getting Disenchanted, 2 sequels that have been talked about for well over a decade. When Princess Diaries 3?
Yeah.
That's the only one left. Anyway.
Okay, I think that's enough about Investor Day.
Yeah, let's move on to our main feature, Muppet Family Christmas, because there's nothing. The Muppets are one of our favorite subjects to talk about on this show. And this special has them all. It is not the very only time, but the first time in a narrative sense that all of the Jim Henson characters are in one place at one time. There's been TV specials like celebrations of Muppet anniversaries or something like that, where you would get the characters interacting, but this is the first time in a narrative sense that you're getting the Muppets and Sesame Street and Fraggle Rock and the Muppet Babies all in one place at one time.
Yeah. So we got to talk about how we watched this thing, because this is another one that, I'm sorry, but you can't find it on Disney Plus.
Yeah, we watched this on YouTube.
Yeah, if you want to see it, go to YouTube. There are several very clean copies up there. It's fine. You know, they've got all the stuff.
Yeah, and there's a lot of reasons for that. The big one being music rights.
Well, here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
You are correct that it has been edited. You can't buy it in full, as in what aired in 1987. Mm-hmm. You can't officially buy a copy in the US that has everything. Some of the UK releases have most everything intact, but the US editions have been heavily edited. The ones that are kind of the highest up on the list on YouTube have all of the original songs kept intact, so you're pretty safe there if you want to see the whole thing.
There are times where you can tell that there was an edit to put a song back into the special.
Yeah. However, as with a lot of Muppet things, we've been kind of saying, and we talked about it when we talked about like Muppet Movie and stuff earlier in the year, was, oh, well, they're probably not putting a lot of Muppet stuff up because of various rights issues. Muppet Show used a lot of songs. Muppet Babies used a lot of old film footage and stuff. You know, Muppets has always kind of used bits and bobs from other things. But I kind of have read some things that suggested that maybe the reason why the Muppets have not done so well at Disney so far is that Bob Iger hated the Muppets, basically. He did not consider them a part of Disney that fit.
And that says a lot considering there was nothing Muppet related at the Investor Day.
Well, yeah, there's some question yet whether or not Chapek will continue. But the thing is, Michael Eisner wanted the Muppets.
Yeah.
So he bought the Muppets after, long negotiations. We talked about that before. Long negotiations, Jim died, things got put on the back burner, eventually it went through. But Eisner was the one who wanted the Muppets. And when Eisner left, just barely after the purchase, Iger showed up and was like, why do we have this puppet thing? Like, that's not the Disney brand. And he did not want to do things. There was supposed to be like a a movie that they were planning that Frank Oz was going to direct. It was something that Henson had worked on, like the early script or whatever, before his death. And instead of doing that, they did Muppet Wizard of Oz. They had a couple of other ideas for a Muppet TV series, and it eventually got into the Muppets on ABC, which I loved.
Yeah.
But a lot of people did not particularly go with the flow of that, which I understand. I personally loved it. I would have loved to have seen 5 more seasons of that easily. But I get it if that wasn't your thing.
There was plans for a whole Muppet land at one of the parks.
Yeah, there was plans to expand the Muppets' presence at the parks that Iger just kind of went, nah. But the thing is that Iger seemed to resent the Muppets because they were Eisner's thing. Iger was more into Marvel and Star Wars because he oversaw those being bought out. So those were his babies.
Pixar as well, because it did oversee that buyout as well.
But he saw the Muppets as an Eisner thing that he didn't want to touch. So when they put out Disney Plus under Iger's, Iger started that, it kind of isn't that surprising that they didn't push the Muppets on there. And a lot of people are saying, well, why don't you? Because this is a perfect time to get kids interested in the Muppets. Mm-hmm. Put all that stuff out there, get kids interested in seeing it, and then you can do new stuff with it. Mm-hmm. And maybe there's some rights issues in a couple of things. Like Muppet Family Christmas, it's a big crossover. They'd also have to make a deal with Children's Workshop and the Henson Company still owning the Fraggle. HBO owning the Fraggles and Henson Company owning some of the other characters that appear in the background. So I get why this one would be complicated from a rights perspective, but I don't think rights can really absolve Iger of his handling of the property. But he's gone now, so we'll see what Chapek does.
So right now, HBO has the rights to Sesame Street. It's Apple that has Fraggle Rock, because they just released new episodes of Fraggle Rock earlier this year. We were talking about it because that show was filmed completely in quarantine.
Yeah. I have not seen it yet. I keep meaning to watch it, and it just keeps slipping my mind.
So yeah, back then, Jim Henson owned all of these characters, and now those characters are split up. The family has been separated, as it were. There was actually plans to have the Sesame Street characters cameo in the Muppet reboot. The one was just called The Muppets with because there's a scene where Kermit is calling all his celebrity friends to do the telethon to save the Muppet Theater. One of the characters was supposed to be Elmo. That Kermit is calling Elmo, and Elmo is supposed to agree to come to do the show. He said he'd love to do it, and the phone is immediately taken out of his hands by a lawyer who hangs up the phone. And it was stopped because Children's Television Workshop lawyers did not want Elmo to be in a Disney movie.
Yeah, and now that it's all consolidated under HBO, and now that HBO Max and Disney Plus are direct competitors for the same market, it seems even less likely. Yeah,
and again, Apple being in that same market.
Well, I think Apple and Disney have a bit better working relationship. On several respects, they might be able to hammer out a deal like the Spider-Man deal, for that. But I really cannot imagine HBO playing ball with Disney on this.
The Henson Company has worked with Disney recently. I think they did a show for Disney Plus fairly recently, Earth to Ned. Yeah,
I mean, there's no ill will between the Henson Company, as far as I can tell, and Disney. Also, I don't really think there's any bad relation between kind of the HBO Warner Brothers side of it and the Henson Company either. They're kind of the neutral party as far as I can tell in this.
Yeah.
But I think that getting kind of the bulk of the main characters everybody knows and loves. I mean, I'm sad to say, but the Henson Company kind of got the leftover characters in the deals.
And Christmas specials and Henson is nothing new. This goes all the way back to 1970 with the Great Santa Claus Switch. And so many others have come after that. We were talking the other day of Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas.
Yeah. On John Denver Christmas Together.
Yeah, the John Denver. We got some notes. People wanted us to do the John Denver special, but yeah, Muppet Christmas Carol and so many other TV and movies that were done. And so Christmas and the Muppets go hand in hand.
Well, didn't they do one called the Christmas Toy or something like that as well?
Yes, the Christmas Toy, which was the year before this. It's actually where the song Together at Christmas comes from, that they actually sing in this special. Which, again, means that if Disney were to put this on Disney Plus, they would have to pay Henson for that song.
Yeah, and one of the songs from the John Denver special is in this as well.
And a song from Fraggle Rock.
Yeah, and a song from Fraggle Rock, as well as a lot of songs that were done for various Hollywood Christmas movies that are all owned by various people now. Some of them are Fox ones, so Disney owns them now, but
Warner
owns some of, it's complicated.
Music rights are complicated, and that's why a lot of the VHS and DVD releases have certain scenes cut, because they could not secure the rights for those songs, so they had to cut them out. Especially during the big Carol medley at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
The entire final act of this movie is just a very long medley of Christmas songs.
Yeah, that's like a 15 minutes of an hour-long special, I think, is just that medley at the end.
There is very little plot in this special. If you take out every single song, you get maybe 10 to 15 minutes of actual plot.
Yeah, real quick, the actual plot is Fozzie Bear talks all of the various Muppet characters to going to his mother's house for Christmas, thinking that his mother is always going to be happy to see him. He doesn't know that his mother has been planning a trip to the beach for Christmas and has rented out her farmhouse, Airbnb style. Boy, were the Muppets early on that one, right?
Yeah.
But basically, she's rented it out Airbnb style to Doc and Sprocket from Fraggle Rock.
And if you were watching this special in the UK, you might wonder who the heck is Doc, because in different countries, Fraggle Rock had a different human character.
The outer space segments were different depending on
which country you lived in.
Yeah, Sprocket was always there. The human always had Sprocket the dog. But in England, I know it was a lighthouse keeper.
Yeah, can you imagine being in the UK and then seeing this character named Doc, and you're wondering where the lighthouse keeper's at?
Yeah. Why is Sprocket with a different human? Yeah, it would have been really confusing for children.
Mm-hmm.
But all the Muppets show up, and Doc and Sprocket aren't particularly happy at first because their nice, quiet Christmas away is now filled with bears and chickens and weirdos and things. But everybody's there except for Miss Piggy. She had a last-minute photo shoot.
Yeah.
But she's on her way. Unfortunately, there is a massive blizzard that prevents anybody from leaving or anybody from coming in. Kermit spends the entire special being super worried about Miss Piggy. Swedish Chef spends the entire special chasing around the Christmas turkey, who he's trying to catch and cook. At one point, he sees Big Bird and thinks that's much better than a turkey, and briefly considers cooking Big Bird.
That's the big turkey. Which kind of works because Oscar the Grouch always called Big Bird a giant turkey.
Yeah, it's a good little callback. But eventually, Piggy, through many mishaps and trials, finally shows up in a gorgeous one-horse open sleigh to saying in the middle we get Kermit and Robin finding a Fraggle hole and ending up in Fraggle Rock. We get Sesame Street characters wandering in and out. We get little bits like Fozzie meeting a snowman and discovering they make a really good comedy duo. It's just a lot of little interstitial bits. But as far as plot, that's kind of it. We're hoping Miss Piggy makes it for Christmas, and she eventually does.
It's just, of the Sesame Street characters, it's just the Muppet characters. It's none of the humans.
Oh, yeah. They're the only human in the special as far as the main cast is Doc. And then the big surprise at the end for people who were watching it originally was that Jim Henson shows up.
That every time I see that scene, it's very heartwarming and also very bittersweet. Yeah. Considering this is 1987, 3 years from now, Henson would pass away.
Yeah, and it's just, considering how many of the Muppet performers in this special are still with us, you're like, oh man, we could have still had Jim Henson. Oh.
If only he went to the doctor.
Yeah. Don't have a wait and see attitude, kids.
Yeah.
But
I did love that scene because it looks like, those are all the Muppets are his children. So it's like a father looking at all the children and the grandchildren just having fun, and he's just looking at them smiling. Like, I like when they have fun.
Steve Whitmire on his personal blog wrote some thoughts about the behind the scenes of this.
Oh yeah, he played a Rizzo, and he also played the turkey.
Yeah, and he also helped puppet Sprocket as well. I'm not sure if he was a main performer on Sprocket. I know he had worked on Fraggle Rock, of course, but I can't remember. He talks about having worked a little bit on that scene with Jim. Mm-hmm. He was the main performer for Sprocket, so he was the main performer on actual Fraggle Rock. So he talks in his blog about his two favorite scenes from this being Rizzo talking to Oscar the Grouch, which I personally love as a cute scene because he asks Oscar if he can sleep in his trash can that night because
I never had a rat in a trash can before.
That might be nice. I like that Oscar says that might be nice. I love anything that shows that Oscar is not like grouchy for the sake of being grouchy.
I mean, that's his character. He likes trash. He sings a whole song about how he loves trash.
But the thing is, he does have more emotion. He's not just like anger. Mm-hmm. A lot of people get that wrong about Oscar the Grouch, is that he just takes pleasure in different things. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't take pleasure in the things that a lot of other people around him take pleasure in.
Case in point, they're singing Deck the Halls. Here we come with caroling.
Deck the Halls. It's Deck the Halls. And Oscar, it comes to his part for a solo and he says, I'm not going to sing this song. And then everybody goes, fa la 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 la. Which I love. Oscar was kind of my avatar in this one because everybody is so very much in the Christmas mood and Oscar is having none of it.
But he's hanging out with them anyway.
Yeah, I mean, well, who doesn't love a good song?
The late great Amazing Carol Spinney.
Yeah, the reason Steve Whitmire said that was one of his favorite scenes was because, as we've talked about before, it was Carol Spinney who introduced Jim Henson and Steve Whitmire and suggested Steve Whitmire for the job. So, yeah. But he also said that, he got to be the person with Jim for his cameo. Mm-hmm. And he was situated just under where Jim was standing, doing the puppeteer for Sprocket. And he says, this is a quote from his blog. "I can still feel what it felt like to have been standing there that day below Jim. In that scene, Jim says that he loves it when they have a good time. No truer words were ever spoken. We all had so many good times together, and Jim loved it." So that moment is not them giving Jim Henson a line so much as, once again, Jim Henson putting his philosophy on camera, like we talked about with Muppet Movie.
Yeah, I mean, he wrote this, he directed this, so yeah.
Kermit would joke about the cameo, that it was, Jim is not an actor, but we like to humor him, which I love. That was one of Kermit's interviews promoting the special.
And speaking of Kermit, this is one of the very few instances where we get mutual affection between Kermit and Piggy.
Yeah, Kermit is very worried about her. Piggy is concerned about finding him the right Christmas gift.
And then they snuggle under the mistletoe.
Yeah, and although Kermit does give a, oh boy when he sees the mistletoe, he doesn't fight it,
Yeah.
She kisses him on the cheek, he kisses her back on the cheek, and they snuggle. It's cute.
And of course, I mean, you have the scene of Piggy with her arm around Kermit as they sing the Christmas carols. It's a cute little scene.
Yeah, and I love in this one, talking about that dynamic with Kermit and Piggy, we do get the Jim Henson Frank Oz gorgeous double act multiple times over in this special.
Yeah.
Because Bert and Ernie show up, and, Statler and Waldorf show up.
Kermit and Fozzie.
Yeah, Kermit and Fozzie. And, there's a lot of nice double acts. And there's also some interesting ones like the Oscar the Grouch and Rizzo that you would never get in any other scene.
Cookie Monster and Animal.
Yeah. Cookie Monster and Animal is a really interesting one because Animal's like, that's my kind of guy, It's like,
yeah, because Janice makes Christmas cookies, Cookie Monster eats them all, and Animal's like, yeah, I like that guy.
Yeah, mad respect, Mr. Cookie Monster.
Big Bird and the Swedish Chef,
Yeah, Big Bird and the Swedish Chef is one that you're kind of like, you forget that Swedish Chef never really showed up on Sesame Street, because it's like, he probably should have, but at the same time, it is a bit dark for him to be chasing around talking characters trying to cook them.
And Big Bird showing the big heart that he has is like, hey, I know you're away from your family. I know you live in Sweden. It's the holidays. You're not going to be able to go home this year. So I'm going to give you a Christmas present. And it kind of warms. Yes, it's birdseed because it's Big Bird.
Well, it's chocolate covered birdseed though. So come on.
Yeah, but it's still it's like this is something that no one really gave him that kind of gift before, and now he kind of feels guilty that he wanted to kill this guy and eat him.
Well, it kind of, the rest of the special kind of makes it seem like the only reason they invited Swedish Chef is because they needed somebody to cook.
Yeah.
He's there to work. He's not really part of the group in most of the special. He shows up at the end, but for most of the special, he's in the kitchen and only interacts when somebody comes in to demand something of him.
Yeah. Other character interactions, Rolf and Sprocket.
Yeah, I like Rolf and Sprocket,
And they're just speaking dog to each other, and there's Doc going, "Oh, don't you hate it when you can't speak the language?" And he's smiling because Sprocket finally has someone to talk to. That's another dog to talk to.
Yeah. And if you've ever had a dog, you will know that there is something awesome about, your dog who probably lives alone. I mean, I have one dog. He lives alone and he doesn't really get to play with other dogs that much. But when he gets to play with other dogs, it is the most pure joy you will ever see. And he, it's just so great to watch him communicate with other dogs, which is, I like that they have that in Muppet form.
Now, I mean, it's very obvious that Doc can understand Sprocket, because Doc, like Sprocket will bark, like, I don't know, I didn't know we were running from a bear.
Well, and also he does have a line where he says, Sprocket, are these those Fraggles you're always telling me about? And it's like, how would he know the word Fraggle?
Yeah.
From Sprocket unless he could understand dog in some way, or Sprocket occasionally speaks English and we've just never heard it.
I do love how his reaction is, kind of waving his head,
Yeah. A little bit. Kind of like him.
And we do get a moment of the Fraggles and Doc at the end where they're all singing Christmas carols. And it's the one and only appearance of Uncle Traveling Matt. Because Traveling Matt's voice is just Jim Henson's regular voice.
Yeah.
That's why he doesn't really talk. Let's be honest. I
love the idea, and I love the idea of even though this is a Christmas special, I kind of like how inclusive it is at one part where they go into Fraggle Rock and Kermit and Robin are like, oh, Merry Christmas. And they're like, what's Christmas? And they sort of explain Christmas in a secular sense.
The non-religious version of Christmas.
Yeah. And they say, well, it's a time for peace and giving and coming together with people you love and everything. And they're like, oh, we have that too, and we're celebrating it right now.
And if you've seen, they do. There is a episode of Fraggle Rock that deals with that.
Yeah, but also the reason that some of us, the non-jerk people, tend to say things like happy holidays to strangers is that almost every culture has some kind of midwinter holiday.
Yeah.
So at least in the northern hemisphere, where midwinter is in the middle of December, mm-hmm. This is roughly the time that lots of different cultures had some kind of get together, share what you've got out of, stores are thin for everybody, but if we all chip in and have a potluck, everybody will have enough to eat kind of idea.
I would have liked if they had done something with Swedish Chef, like one of his traditions from Sweden to be used, or there is at least one character in Sesame Street that's Jewish. We could have had a Hanukkah thing.
Yeah, I did like, though, Big Bird at least talking about people who might not be with their families.
Yeah, especially now.
Well, yeah, it kind of rings a little different this year, of course. But, every year there are people who are kind of displaced for one reason or other. Mm. And I kind of like that there is a character in this that sort of is that stand-in character.
Yeah.
The Fraggles are the stand-in character if you have a different celebration. I always loved how inclusive the Henson stuff tried to be. We've talked about before that it didn't always hit that mark the way that we wanted it to, but bless them, they always tried.
Can we talk about how the Fraggles are the ultimate regifters?
I love the idea of the passing the rock and sharing it, and that regifting it isn't a stigma for them.
Mm-hmm. Like they've been sharing this rock, giving this rock to each other on their winter holiday for Gobo says 32 times.
Yeah, it's like, I think it's 37, but it's some really high number, yeah. Mm-hmm. But also, it's not an immediate regifting idea. Mm-hmm. It's like, I've played with this rock in the past year. It has brought me joy. I want you to have that joy. So next year I will give this rock to you. Which I kind of like that idea. There's so much, it's cliche to say so much about the consumerism of Christmas and whatever, but it's like some of the best gifts I've ever gotten is when somebody has been like, hey, I had this thing in my childhood and I found it in storage recently and I know you really like this thing.
Well,
I've actually gotten gifts because of this podcast where somebody said, hey, I found some old Disney merchandise from when I was a kid and I thought you would love it. I heard you talk about how much you loved it on the podcast and here, have it. And I'm like, that is the sweetest gift.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it's old or used or whatever. Like, you thought about me and you thought about me enough to go, hey, I think that person would really enjoy this thing.
And to me, a nice little heartwarming moment is we get Boober and Moki having a little moment where Boober kind of kisses her on the cheek. Like, there's a little moment there between the two characters.
Yeah. I always liked those two characters together. I thought they made a good match.
Well, one's kind of a negative guy, and she's all these positive girls, so they kind of balance each other out.
Yeah. I love. Let's talk about the Sesame Street pageant for a bit.
Yeah.
Where they do "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" with all the Sesame Street characters.
Yeah. Poor Bert.
Bert.
Bert lost the bet.
Yeah.
Like we couldn't get Prairie Dawn. Okay, I realized Abby Cadabby didn't exist back then, and we didn't have Rosita back then, but we had Prairie Dawn. She could have been Mama.
But it's funnier.
Yeah, it's true.
I think it's the best part of that is when the two-headed monster comes out playing Santa Claus and Sam the Eagle screams, "Is nothing sacred?"
Yeah.
But then I like that when Bert questions it, Ernie says he said he'd never gotten to be in a play before and he really wanted to be in the play.
And they made him Santa Claus.
Which I love. I'm like, again, that's kind of that adorable include. Like, are you the perfect one for the part? Probably not. But we want you to feel included and loved and part of the group. I just love that so much.
Technically, Santa only has one line in that poem, so it's not like you have to remember a lot of lines.
Well, yeah, it's a good, easy, but it's also like the star of the show.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you're not on stage the whole time, but you're the big finale. It's like, it's such a cool, as someone who has directed, community theater and worked a lot with. Sometimes that's all it takes. Sometimes people don't want to be on stage the whole time. They don't want a lot of lines to remember. They don't have a lot of time to put toward it, but they do want something where their friends and family can show up and be like, "Oh yeah, I saw you. You were really good," And that's kind of the same feeling I get watching the two-headed monster at Santa Claus. Is like, it feels to me like that person in the community theater that's like, "Look, I'm a little scared about being on stage, but I've never been in a play before, and it's a dream of mine, and do you have a little part I could try?"
Yeah, and then imagine, you're going to play Santa Claus.
Yeah, you only have one line. It's not a lot to remember, but you're Santa Claus, Oh, it's so heartwarming to me on kind of a personal level because I have that experience with that.
Oh, one of my favorite interactions is Doc with Ernie and Bert. Like, I'm Doc. Doc begins with D. It's almost like they're parodying Sesame Street.
Well, yeah, and I love that they keep calling out the letters, and when Doc questions it, Bert just goes, "Look, where we're from, this is small talk."
Which is true. It's Sesame Street. Letters and numbers.
I just absolutely love that bit. But it's not done like this is babyish. It's just yet another quirk of Muppet characters.
Yeah, this is how it is on Sesame Street.
Yeah, this is what Sesame Street is like, and that's fine. Doc questions it, but once Bert explains, Doc just kind of goes, "Yeah, okay." Yeah.
Yeah. Phew. So many. Let's talk about Gonzo, the turkey, and Camilla love triangle.
Oh my goodness. I kinda adore the love triangle because the Swedish chef has invited this turkey over. The turkey doesn't realize that he's supposed to be the dinner.
Yeah.
He's not coming for dinner, he's coming as dinner.
And Gonzo tries to warn him.
Yeah, because Gonzo really does love and respect birds. All birds. Every time we've seen Gonzo interact with a bird, he's just nothing but respect.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes more than that, but at the very least, respect. And so he pulls the turkey aside and he's like, look, this is not a good place for you to be. You are in danger. And the turkey's like, hey, I can handle it. Don't worry about it. Get out. And this is Dave Goelz and Steve Whitmire, so it has a similar feel to the Gonzo Rizzo dynamic.
The turkey kind of sounds almost like Rizzo too.
Well, yeah, it's a very similar voice, and you can tell that he's very sure of himself, and he's not scared of the Swedish chef, and in fact, he thinks this is going to be a fun weekend away to troll the Swedish chef.
Yeah.
And that's what he does for the rest of the show, but he also hits on Camilla.
And Camilla isn't exactly rejecting the turkey.
Yeah, Camilla seems like she might be into it.
She seems to kind of enjoy the fact that her boyfriend and this guy are kind of fighting over her, which says a lot about Camilla.
Yeah, but also, I mean, who knows? Maybe chickens are polyamorous.
Maybe.
We don't know.
We don't know. One rooster and many chickens in the coop, you know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Camilla is not really, possessive in the same way. But Gonzo is. When the turkey questions it, he's like, you're not even a bird. And Gonzo says, well, nobody's perfect.
He does got a beak, though.
Yeah, he does have a beak. I love how sweet Gonzo is to everybody. And one of my favorite Gonzo moments is right when they're all coming in the door. And Fozzie is introducing everybody to Ma Bear. And Gonzo kisses Ma Bear on the cheek.
Yeah.
And it's such a quick, sweet moment, and I love it because it's not explained, it's not focused in on, it's just Gonzo walks through the door and he gives her a kiss on the cheek, like
it's his own mom.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Gonzo never had a mom, so
that's a different movie.
Well, but we already kind of knew that about Gonzo. Like it was kind of already set in the Muppet, lore by this point that Gonzo doesn't really know where he comes from. He's a whatever.
Yeah. This is the first time he's ever called a weirdo, which comes from Muppet Babies.
Yeah. Oh, you want to go into Muppet Babies while we're
here? Yeah, let's go into Muppet Babies.
That's a good segue.
Muppet Babies had been airing for a little bit at this point, and we get the return of the Muppet Baby Muppets from Muppet Take Manhattan.
Yeah, as home movies. Scooter finds some home movies, and they play them, and the characters comment on them while the Muppet Babies sing Santa Claus is coming to town.
Yeah.
I think,
which is really weird, because at the beginning of the special, Fozzie introduces Kermit to his mom. Hey, I want you to introduce my best friend, Kermit the Frog. And then there's this home movie that Ma Bear has of Fozzie and Kermit together.
Yeah, and she's commenting on the other characters as if she remembers them as children.
Yeah.
She doesn't just comment on Fozzie. She's got a few other things to say about some of the other characters that suggests she knew them when. But the thing is that the Muppet timeline has always been a little wibbly wobbly.
Yeah. And yeah, we get the Muppet Babies. They're singing Santa Claus is coming to town, and all of the Muppet. It's like MST3K with Muppets.
Yeah, they're commenting on it. Yeah.
Like, oh look, there's a wee little Rolf. I'm not so wee. I was paper trained by then.
Yeah, and
it's Piggy when she was a little ham hock.
No, it was the ham hock when she was a little sausage roll. Which I love that line. I love the idea of Miss Piggy's a little sausage roll. It just sounds so adorable. It sounds like a swaddled little piglet, a little sausage roll.
I like Gonzo commenting on how cute he was as a baby.
Yeah. I like that through the whole thing, the one in the main cast that you don't see is Animal, who pops out at the end, closely followed by adult Animal running through the screen and breaking.
It's just like, oh, Animal. Oh, Animal.
Yeah. And we don't see Scooter. Presumably he was behind the camera, because Scooter's always a behind-the-scenes kind of guy. And we don't see Skeeter because she doesn't exist in the main Muppet universe.
We do get one shot of Scooter as baby Scooter, but this is actually the first appearance of Puppet Baby Animal, because that was not in the Great Muppets Take Manhattan.
Yeah. But Muppet Baby Animal, at least the puppet version, is so adorable.
Yeah,
all of them are. I mean, all of those puppets for the babies are just so cute.
Yeah, I think Muppet Babies was doing pretty good at that time. Fraggle Rock was kind of wrapping up their production. The animated Fraggle Rock, though, had just started airing on Saturday mornings. Oh, speaking of, this is actually the first time that the puppet versions of the Fraggles were shown on network television, because Fraggle Rock was shown on HBO at the time.
Yeah. The interesting thing is that I was thinking about it the other day.
Mm-hmm.
I watched Fraggle Rock as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have HBO. And I don't remember how I watched Fraggle Rock as a kid.
Maybe they syndicated it on different channels.
Maybe.
Because I remember watching it on HBO.
Yeah, but we didn't have HBO for a while for religious reasons. And that sounds like a joke, but it's not. And so I didn't see them on premium. We were too poor, but we didn't have premium channels. So I don't know where I saw Fraggles, but I was very into them, and I had the toys, and I remember watching it, and I remember, songs from my childhood and stuff, but I just do not know how I got a hold of Fraggle Rock at that time.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, this special is just, I mentioned it last week, like, this is like Avengers Infinity War before that even was a thing.
This is the greatest crossover in history, yeah.
Yeah, you did not see these characters. Like, you would occasionally see Kermit on Sesame Street. And Kermit was, like, the narrator of a lot of the older Muppet specials. Like I said, like Christmas Toy and Emmett Otter, where you would see Kermit kind of at the beginning and the end act as a narrator. But to have the actual characters interact like that, it's just, you never saw that. Unfortunately, you will never see that again because, again, the characters were sold off. Jim Henson passed away, and yeah.
I want to talk about a couple of the running gags.
All right.
To bring us back into not sadness.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the greatest running gag is the Icy Patch.
The Icy Patch. Watch out for the Icy Patch.
Yeah, there is. If you've never seen it, when the Muppets first, or when Doc actually comes in, says, "Watch out for the Icy Patch," and through the entire special, characters keep slipping on the Icy Patch, which is some time for some hilarious puppeteering.
Yeah, Kermit is the first of the Muppet cast to slip on the Icy Patch. Rolf slips on the Icy Patch when he's trying to tell a joke to Ma Bear. It culminates with Miss Piggy doing this big "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas," and it's big heartwarming song. And then she's about to enter the house, and then she slips on the Icy Patch.
Well, her and Kermit both.
Yeah.
Because she's walking arm in arm with Kermit. Both of them kind of take a dive, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. I love some of the ones that aren't recurring jokes, but they are callbacks to the characters, like the blizzard starts, and in the background is Count Von Count staring out the window going, 1 snowflake, 2 snowflake, 3 snowflake.
There's a nice little callback where Doc says it's cold enough to shut down a Winnebago, and then later in the special, the snowman makes the same joke.
Yeah, I like the snowman as a new character.
Unfortunately, we never really see him again after this. Like the turkey, Dick, these were just for the special.
Yeah, but the snowman has a pretty quick wit, and Fozzie discovers that and decides they're going to start a comedy double act. But I love that when they try to take the double act inside the house and show it off to everybody else, that Statler and Waldorf just totally crushed their dreams.
Yeah, they just show up and think, what are they doing here? Oh, they're friends of mine. It says a lot that Fozzie's biggest detractors are her mother's best friends.
Yeah. But I love that they take the wind out of the sails by saying the punchline of their jokes before they get to them.
Did you hear about the church that went on fire? Holy smoke!
Yeah, and I love that Fozzie and Snowman are both just so crestfallen of like, but how did they know the punchline? You know, and they're telling like the oldest, corniest jokes. Mm-hmm. But of course that's where Fozzie's at with his humor. Like that's the stuff that makes him laugh. So it doesn't matter that it's ancient and corny to everybody else. It's what makes him happy.
Speaking of Fozzie, is that you kind of get where a lot of Fozzie's mannerism comes from because his mother has the same ones. Like, that's like how they greet each other.
Yeah, I like how the performers, you know, made sure to mimic.
Yeah, Frank Oz's.
The performer for Ma Bear absolutely mimicked all the stuff that had already been set for Fozzie. And I just love this special so much. I
Jerry
want
Nelson
to wrap it in
actually
a
played
blanket and
Ma
snuggle
Bear.
it.
Yeah, Jerry Nelson. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Jerry Nelson's great. One of the original Muppet performers. Yeah.
Yeah.
This was, I believe, the first time we saw Ma Bear. No.
Yes.
She was in one episode of the Muppet Show.
Okay.
She's in the Muppet Theater audience, and Fozzie is trying. I couldn't remember if the Muppet Show aired before this special, but it did. Fozzie has invited his mother to see the show, and he works himself into every segment of the show trying to impress her, and then discovers at the end of the show that she fell asleep like right when she got there. She hasn't seen a thing.
And unfortunately, we wouldn't see Ma Bear for a while until the Muppets did those Facebook commercials a few years ago.
Yeah, she came back.
Yeah. Which makes sense, you know, if you're going to have Fozzie is one of the few Muppet characters that has a canonical parents, and they were trying to sell those Facebook portal things to talk to loved ones far away, and that made sense.
The interesting thing is she has a couple of names throughout the Muppet years.
Yeah, in this special she's called Emily Bear.
Yeah, which I think is what most people have kind of decided on. Mm-hmm. But in an issue of Muppet Magazine, she's called Agatha T. Bear. But that seems to have been an earlier version of the script that they were working off of, because in the actual special, Kermit answers with Emily Bear Residence, and she's later shown in a comic book as Emily Bear, but most people call her Ma Bear or Mrs. Bear. Mm-hmm. Which is cute, but I always like that sometimes, because of the way various Muppet things, you know, some of the side things are put out earlier than the actual filmed product, that sometimes we get those discrepancies.
Yeah.
Because they'll go through various changes in the pre-production.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's like, this is just, we can go on and on about this special. The interactions, just these characters being together in really the only time in a narrative sense. You know, there's been celebrations with the Muppets where all these characters are together, but this is a story with these characters, and this is really the only time we ever see that.
And it really does make them feel like a family rather than disconnected properties.
Yeah.
Which, both of those things are kind of true.
Yeah.
They are a family of characters because they were all kind of created by the same people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the same group was kind of responsible for a lot of these, at least in the initial stages. But they're also completely disconnected properties. You know, Sesame Street and the Muppets crosses over just a little bit because of Kermit and one or two other characters that show up now and then.
Mm-hmm.
But Fraggle Rock was a completely separate thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's cute to kind of see them integrated into the same world. That,
yeah.
like, well, yeah, the Muppets would know about the Sesame Street characters because Kermit would have told them. But then the way they work Fraggle Rock in is so inventive.
Kermit knows what Fraggles are.
Well, yeah, Kermit meets the Fraggles and immediately goes, "Oh my goodness, it's Fraggles," and the Fraggles are like, "Yeah, it's whatever you are. What are you?" You know, and he has to explain like what frogs are because I guess they don't ever get any frogs burrowing down that far. I don't know.
They only see Fraggles, Doozers, and Gorgs, so yeah.
But there are all kinds of tunneling animals, and I don't know.
I just love the fact that it's, you know, Robin and Gobo are both played by Jerry Nelson, so it's essentially Jerry Nelson talking to himself.
Yeah. I do like at the end, though, that Robin passes the Fraggle Pebble on to Grover.
Yeah. And Grover, he might not know what a Fraggle is, but, you know, it's this thing means a lot to this little frog, and he gave it to me, so I'm going to cherish it.
Yeah, but have you ever had a tiny child give you something nonsensical as if it were the greatest gift in the world?
Many toddlers have given me their bottles. It's like, and I wish I could keep them, but no, this belongs to you. You need to eat this for sustenance.
But, you know, a child will put, like, a crayon scribble on a paper and then come and hand it to you as if they are handing you the Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
You know, and they're like, I made this for you. And anytime a child does that, unless you are an absolute monster, and I may be many things, but I hopefully am not an absolute monster, you always go like, wow, this is for me. I've never gotten anything so beautiful or wonderful, or, you know. So that moment with Grover kind of makes me feel like he's seeing a child come up to me and being like, I got you a Fraggle Pebble. That means nothing. It's just a rock. But Grover treats it like, this Fraggle Pebble is for me? Wow! You know?
Well, Grover deals with children every day on Sesame Street.
Yeah, he's used to that sort of thing. But I'm like, that is the appropriate reaction when a child gives you whatever nonsense they've got in their hand. You know?
It feels weird that Robin is giving it to Grover, of all characters, because those two have never interacted prior in the special.
Yeah, but also it's like Elmo and Fozzie are decorating the tree. Like, sometimes you just have to get these characters.
It's the one appearance of Elmo before he was like the megastar of Sesame Street.
Yeah. He had already started to show up a little bit, but the peak of Elmo mania would not come for a few more years.
Yeah, about another decade or so.
No, he was
Tickle Me Elmo would be a while away.
Yeah, I mean, Tickle Me Elmo was when I was in high school, so yeah.
So, yeah,
we would have been in high school at the time, so
87. So yeah, 97. That makes sense.
yeah. But Elmo was already a thing before Tickle Me Elmo. I just don't think that you realized that unless you followed the Muppets or had children.
Yeah, I mean,
I
Elmo.
think Tickle Me Elmo was when the rest of the non-kid or Muppet world recognized Elmo as a thing. But Elmo was already part of my world by that point, you know.
Yeah, but he wasn't like as big a. He wasn't the central star of Sesame Street that he eventually became.
Yeah, after the Tickle Me Elmo thing, then he became like all of Sesame Street has to be about Elmo.
Elmo gets his own segment of the show.
Yeah. That did change a lot, but you know, Elmo is the type of character that would want to be decorating the tree.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're like, hey, we're going to turn on the Christmas lights, Elmo would be like, Elmo wants to turn on the lights, you know, like it would, because he's a 5-year-old.
That would make more sense between Robin and Elmo, since they're both supposed to be like children.
Yeah, I'm kind of sad we didn't really get that interaction, because you're right, it does make sense as the kids of the group.
Mm-hmm.
But, whatever.
Whatever. I don't know how much more we could talk about this special, but because we could go on and on, but it's just us talking about this scene and that scene and that scene, and we could, but it's like, before
we go, I want to talk about one final thing, which is we mentioned it in passing before about Kermit and Piggy and their gifts.
Oh yeah.
Piggy has a whole little B plot that she's late showing up and gets stuck in the snow because she needs to find Kermit like the perfect Christmas gift or whatever.
I think she ends up getting him some frog slippers.
Yeah, fuzzy flippers. Yeah. And they're little Kermit the Frog feet, but fuzzy slippers, which I love and I kind of want. But I absolutely adore Kermit's gift for Miss Piggy, which is a mink.
And she goes crazy, a mink, because, you know.
Yeah, she thinks it's going to be a mink stole.
Yeah.
And instead, it's a mink, a live mink, who comes out and talks to Miss Piggy, but is dressed like Miss Piggy and turns out to be Miss Piggy's biggest fan. And at first, Piggy, when she's like, this is my mink, you just brought me like a mink, you know, like a live mink. Mm-hmm. But then the mink starts going like, oh, Miss Piggy, I'm your biggest fan, and I'm dressed like you, and I know all your stuff and everything. Piggy just looks over and is like, Kermit, I love it! You know, it's like, because, yeah, what else would you bring Miss Piggy? You bring Piggy a fawning sycophant to follow her around and tell her how wonderful she is. Like,
and again, unfortunately, we never see Maureen the mink ever again.
She may have found her way into becoming a mink stole at some point.
Oh.
Jim Henson always had that kind of dark sense of humor, so she might have appeared in Piggy's wardrobe at some point.
And that was Muppet Family Christmas. Oh. I don't think we can really ask the question, but, you know, does this one have the magic? I think so.
Obviously. I mean, duh, we've gushed. We haven't said a bad word about it the whole time.
Yeah, even if you don't know about these characters, maybe you've never seen Fraggle Rock, maybe you never really saw Sesame Street, or even the Muppets, you can kind of get the gist of these characters. You know, they're just characters from all different walks of life, just spending the holidays with each other and enjoying each other's company, because that's really what the holidays are about. Like the song at the end says, old friends, new friends, here for the holidays.
Yeah, and I like that in the moments we spend with the characters, at least that get moments on screen, every one of them is so perfectly written to let you know their entire personality in the minimum amount of time. Yeah.
Boober, like, oh no, they could have germs. That tells you everything you need to know about Boober.
Yeah, and you know, Red being so excited at the adventure of seeing frogs, and you know, it's so I love this special so much.
Yeah.
You know what? you might have finally ungrinched me with the
Oh.
magic of the Muppets.
Maybe. Yeah, so yeah, this definitely has the magic. It made Kiki's heart grow 3 sizes today.
At best, it took me from Grinch to Grouch.
Okay.
I'm still in my trash can, but I might sing a song with you.
We're gonna have your little rat friend in there, and you're gonna have her as a roommate.
I love rats. They're adorable.
Which makes me wonder, where's Slimy? Like, Slimy's not in this.
Yeah, I always liked Slimy. He was a good character.
He has, so, Oscar had Slimy the Worm. He's never had a rat. Which, considering he lives in New York, is a big thing.
Yeah, how do you keep rats out of that trash can? Tell us your secret.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Muppet Family Christmas. If you haven't seen it yet, it's on YouTube. Go watch it. One thing I do want to mention, and it's kind of gotten a little bit of a viral notice in the last few days. Depending on when you watch this special, especially if you watched this when it was aired on NBC, I believe the version that I watched on YouTube has this advertisement for Dateline airing afterwards.
Yeah. You want to talk about tonal whiplash? And that was A Muppet Family Christmas. We hope you enjoyed it. Now on Dateline, do you want to murder babies?
After families are sitting there with their children watching the Muppets, do you want to murder children? Find out,
Yeah, it's such a weird. It's literally about like babies dying or something like that. It's so horrible, but yeah, that has been kind of a viral kind of tonal whiplash thing.
Yeah, and that's kind of gotten around in the last couple of days. Apparently, people have been watching this special and watching that one version on YouTube, and people have been talking about it.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah. So let's move on to next week. Will be our final episode of 2020, and usually our final episode of the year we do a look back of the year that was. But
I don't want to. Don't make me.
I don't want to remember 2020 either. Kiki, do you have any ideas of what we could do next week?
I don't know. I mean, we could. No, we already did that earlier in the year. Hold on, I'll think of something.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. My brain has just been tortured with all this Christmas nonsense. How do you expect me to come up with a good show with all this, like, sappy cheer coming in? Oh my god. Oh my god, I got it.
What?
You have been torturing me for the last 3 weeks. Okay, well, minus Muppets. But you tortured me 2 weeks before that with your sappy holiday Christmas nonsense. I'm putting my foot down. We are doing Christmas Kiki's way. I don't care if Christmas is over. We're doing the one movie I watch every Christmas. We're going to do Die Hard.
Ooh. It is a Fox movie, which means Disney owns it.
Yeah. Every Christmas, I sit down in costume and watch Die Hard.
Ho, ho, ho.
Ho, ho, ho. But you know what? We're gonna have to give our fine listeners a bit of a warning. This will be our first R-rated film. Our first film that is meant strictly for an adult audience. And next week, our usual censorship rules will not apply.
Yeah, we noticed that some of our listeners have told us that they listen with their kids, and we appreciate that, but next week's episode isn't going to be suitable for children.
Yeah. So make sure that next week you listen without the kiddies, because there's some salty talk in that movie, and it might bleed over into the rest of the podcast. So we're making no promises about next week's content being safe for the kiddies.
Might have to put an explicit tag on that episode.
Yeah, it'll be fine. It's just one episode a year.
One episode a year. So join us next week as we watch Die Hard.
The ultimate Christmas movie.
The ultimate Christmas movie.
Merry Christmas.
Merry whatever you celebrate, and be safe, and try to stay home. We know there are a lot of people who are going to travel anyway, but be safe because we want you to make it to the new year.
Yeah, we love you all, and thanks for sticking with us in this horrific year. We hope we were able to lighten it a little bit.
All right, we're almost to the finish line. One more episode to go, and we'll talk to you all later. Bye.
Bye. Don't let the magic stop here.
Join our conversation online on Facebook at Rewatching the Magic.
Twitter at Rewatch the Magic.
And of course, new episodes every week at rewatchingthemagic.podbean.com.
Special thanks to our friend Ian Bonds for being our holiday announcer. Check out his videos on YouTube at Insane Ian or on Bandcamp at insaneian.bandcamp.com. Remember, the magic is for everyone.
It only stops if you let it.